Meantime, the Senate is poised to vote on the single most important economic reform this country has faced in decades, and those who started this mutiny last night say that's what this is all about, stopping the bill, not bringing down a leader. Well, spare a thought then for the man who has spent the last 6 weeks negotiating on an agreed compromise with the government, Acting Climate Change Minister Ian MacFarlane. Ian MacFarlane, thanks very much for joining us.
Pleasure, friend.
Ian MacFarlane, what is happening to the Liberal Party?
Well, I guess what we're seeing is some people who want to stop the climate change bill at all costs, disregarding the Liberal Party, disregarding the process, which has been an extraordinarily extensive process, and deciding to basically attack it at all costs. And the costs are high. The damage this is doing to the party is something I'd ask those people to consider. But the reality is, we started this process nearly a year ago. We made it clear to the party room 5 or 6 weeks ago that if they wanted us to, we could negotiate amendments. They agreed with that. They agreed overwhelmingly with that. And we came back with a set of amendments that the party room then agreed to. Now, since then, we've seen a number of rearguard actions, backdoor efforts, call them what you will, by people who are vehemently opposed to this, who've basically set aside all normal principles of policy making and launched a very public attack.
And do you agree and accept what some of those people say? I'm thinking about Tony Abbott and others when they say that this isn't about leadership. This is not a leadership issue at all. It's just about the policy.
Well, that may be so, but ever since I've been here, party room was where policy was decided. Shadow cabinet room or cabinet room was where party policy was decided. That practice seems to have been thrown out the door by these people who now want to wage a public campaign after they lost a very straight down the line discussion in the party room and lost it quite clearly. And there's no dispute to that. So I just say to them, if they want to have a policy debate, I'll entertain them in my office. Malcolm will entertain them in his office. We'll entertain them in the party room. That is usually the way any party does policy.
We are out of the bounds of the usual. This has gone past that. You must know that. Is the ETS bill, as amended by you and Senator Wong, now dead?
Well, we're not out of the bounds of the usual if people decide that the Liberal Party is more important than what they're doing. The reality is that there has been a process. We have arrived at an outcome, and the normal practice there is that if you have a difference, you discuss it in the party room. In answer to your specific question about the legislation, my understanding is that the Senate will continue to debate the legislation today and next week, and it's still my understanding and expectation that the legislation will be passed. Can I say, Fran, the numbers on this, and I know everyone counts numbers, I happen to count them every day, and I counted them again last night. The numbers have not changed in the Liberal Party since we spoke on this legislation on Tuesday, since we voted on not having a spill on Wednesday, and when I rang around my colleagues last night, the numbers have not moved. So I say to those people, let's follow the process and let's not make a public spectacle of ourselves.
When you say the numbers have not moved, does that mean the number of people who support an emissions trading scheme or the numbers who support Malcolm Turnbull? Because most people I spoke to last night think this is inevitably, inexorably leading to a leadership challenge and a leadership change.
Well, I think the numbers for not having a spill were about people not wanting were the divide between people who voted for and against an emissions trading scheme. The numbers last night in support of Malcolm were again cut along the same lines, give or take a few people. There have been people on one side who've moved to the other. There are people who, for instance, voted against the bill but believe Malcolm Turnbull is the best option. So those numbers are holding around the 46-35 we saw in the party room.
So do you believe this will come to a challenge?
I've no idea. I hope it doesn't. I don't see the point of having a party room spill every week. They had their opportunity if they wanted it on Wednesday. They weren't able to get the numbers. The party room decided through a very straight process that this is the policy it wants to take to the next election. We cannot go to another election without an addressing of the climate change issue. We have put in place amendments that have saved in excess of 25,000 jobs, protected industries, and put billions of dollars back into the bottom lines, the balance sheets of companies that employ hundreds of thousands of Australians. I would have thought under normal circumstances that was a pretty good week.
Are you shattered by this?
No.
And do you feel betrayed by your colleagues?
No, I'm disappointed that people are conducting a policy debate in public. I think place.
Is that they're doing more than that? They've walked away from the front bench. They've walked away from their leader. Is that treachery?
Anyone is entitled to leave the front bench any time they like, and that's again the way the Liberal Party works. But we do work on the basis that party room policy is done in the party room. I'm disappointed that this is turning out to be a public spectacle.
Some say this has gone beyond those normal processes because this is actually now a battle for the heart and soul, if you like, of the Liberal Party going on here. Do you see it that way, or do you see this as a panicked response to a pretty fierce electoral blowback?
Well, I see this as people wanting to take their bat and ball after the game has been played very fairly, very squarely, and over a long period of time. This policy proposal and this outcome began a year ago. Everyone understood it every step of the way. There have been ample opportunities for people to express their views, and can I say that those shadow cabinet meetings, shadow ministry meetings and party room meetings have come to a conclusion which I think is the right conclusion.
Are you still a supporter of Malcolm Turnbull?
Of course I am. I always support the leader, and Malcolm Turnbull is showing real courage and real leadership. And can I tell you, Fran, that it's not very long ago some of these people were calling for strong leadership, but when they got it, they didn't like it because it didn't agree with their particular policy. Well, that's democracy. The majority of people in the Liberal Party in Canberra support Malcolm Turnbull and will continue to do so.
And just finally, Ian MacFarlane, if this vote doesn't happen today and the bill is ultimately defeated by the opposition under a leader other than Malcolm Turnbull, will Australia ever have an ETS in your view?
It's inevitable that Australia will have an emissions trading scheme, and I'm quite sure the Rudd government is committed to doing that. My fear is they'll do it through a double dissolution, and we won't get the amendments that we got this week that save thousands and thousands of jobs. We'll get the bill in its original form, which will cost thousands and thousands of jobs.
I should just ask you briefly before I let you go, this apparent meltdown that is going on with the phones and the emails. Tony Abbott, others are saying their phones are running hot. Bile is pouring out of the end of the phone. Are you getting that response?
Well, we're all getting that response, but if you put it in the proportion of the millions and millions and millions of people who support the emissions trading scheme, yes, we are getting hundreds, but not millions.
So does that come back to the fact that really people just don't like Malcolm Turnbull's leadership?
No, it comes back to the fact that the community, like the Liberal Party, have a diversity of views on the emissions trading scheme. The government has messed its first attempt. We've had to fix it to save jobs. People are still confused, and Kevin Rudd now has a job to go out there and sell his emissions trading scheme and save jobs in Australia.